Welcome back. My guest is in his first year as St. John's head coach. They're back in the top 25 for the first time since 2000. Steve Lavin joins me. Steve, nice to have you. How are you?
Good to be with you, Jim. Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Good to have you, Steve. You beat Pittsburgh in a street fight Saturday. What did your team show you in winning that game the way they did?
Well, I think they exhibited some resiliency because we were able to come back twice in that game. So some impressive counterpunching, which is important at this stage of the season, and in particular in the Big East. It's such a rugged conference. We were down 5, came back to take the lead, then we were down 6, and we came back to ultimately win. Also, our physicality was impressive. Pitt, the best rebounding team in the country, and we were able to neutralize or offset their advantage on the boards.
You know, Dwight Hardy won that game with that unbelievable move on the baseline. As a head coach, how nice is it to know that you've got a guy like that in situations like that?
Well, it's wonderful. You take a deep breath, and as a coach, great players take you to great heights, and you just put them in space. And we just ran some high pick and rolls there between Brownlee and Hardy. Both players are threats, obviously have versatility, and Hardy just made a very unique, remarkable move. That's why he's a crunch time performer.
Great move. Were you concerned that he stepped on the line or out of bounds?
Well, when he buried himself along the baseline with all the trees, the help defenders coming, I was concerned either he wouldn't be able to see the basket, that there wouldn't be any daylight or an opening, but the Fred Astaire footwork along the baseline and then the Baryshnikov pirouette and the ball settling in so nicely, serious drama in the Garden, and our crowd couldn't have been better. They were hanging around 15 minutes after that game. They didn't want to go home. It was a surreal game. 25 years in the business as an assistant, a head coach, a broadcaster, now back as a head coach. And it would rank right there in the top 5 experiences I've had as a basketball coach.
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. What about this year? I mean, you've got that win over Pittsburgh. You've got a win over Duke. Different games, different wins. Which one meant more to you? What do you take more satisfaction in?
You know, I think it's more for the progress this team has made. You know, we've played the #1 strength of schedule in the country. At one point in the season, we had 8 consecutive games against teams ranked in the top 25. We traveled west 3 times this year, opened against St. Mary's in Northern California, went up to Alaska for the shootout, brought that hardware home, and then most recently went to Pauley Pavilion and played UCLA. So, you know, the miles our team has put in terms of travel, the rugged schedule, playing in the Big East, it's the satisfaction, just very gratifying to see this team make progress, come through a really arduous stretch, and now playing good basketball as a result of that tough schedule.
Speaking of UCLA, what was it like to come back to Westwood?
You know, that was surreal. It's home at the end of the day. As you know, I spent 12 years there, arrived in 1991 as an assistant, was there 12 years total, 5 as an assistant, 7 as a head coach, fired in 2003, but spent 20 years in Southern California before moving to New York. So a lot of friendly faces, former players in the stands, administrators, faculty members that I'm still very close with. But at the same time, you got to focus on the task at hand, which was to try and get a W. We weren't able to do that. We've won 6 of 7. That was the one loss. But Ben Howland doing an outstanding job, and he's got UCLA in the hunt for an NCAA tournament bid.
Steve, what about your bid? Do you feel like you've done enough to take the decision out of the committee's hands?
Well, you hope so, but the only way to guarantee that is to continue to win games. But when you look at the key ingredients that the selection committee uses, the tools, strength of schedule, #1 in the country, 5 wins over top 25 opponents, I think 3 wins over current top 10 teams. We've challenged ourselves, which is a phrase you'll hear the head of the selection committee use, by playing at UCLA, by playing Duke, by going out to St. Mary's, by going up to Alaska. So if we finish strong, I feel we've got a good case as a viable candidate for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the Big East has got 8 teams in the top 25, so you know they're going. How many teams ultimately do you think the conference puts in the tournament?
Well, depending on how things play out, because that's the most critical aspect, is what's the home stretch like and what teams emerge in the Big East Conference tournament. But I'd say conservatively 8 to 9. And wouldn't be surprised if it moved to 10. I think 11 would be a long shot, but not out of the realm of possibility, because the way in which the Big East has dominated the other power conferences, the winning percentage, overwhelming. We just dismantled the rest of the country in head-to-head competition. And so I think that helps our league. Our win over Duke, Connecticut going down to Texas to get a big win, the number of tournaments in the non-conference that the Big East brought home in terms of hardware. So across the board, this is the deepest league in the country. I'd say 9 conservatively go to the NCAA tournament, but it's not out of the realm for 10 or 11.
God, what a grinder, 10 or 11. Let me ask you this. Over the time, last few years, I'm sure you had other opportunities, but this is the one you said yes to. How come St. John's?
Well, it was the perfect fit, and it was the right time. You know, I needed some time to heal, to regenerate, recalibrate after being fired at UCLA. It was a great experience, those 12 years in Westwood. But at the end of the day, when you're fired, you need some time away to recharge the batteries if you're going to make a return to the sidelines for a second tour of duty at a high level. I also was really enjoying my broadcasting work with my partners Brent Musburger, Dave O'Brien, the Disney Corporation, ESPN, a great company, and was enjoying the time away to spend with my family and friends, my wife. My mom and dad are now late 70s, early 80s, so the time with them is precious in the home stretch of their life. But this was the right time. Madison Square Garden is our home court. St. John's, a top 10 program in every important category, wins in NCAA history, winning percentage, all-time wins, All-Americans, the great histories when you think of Joe Lapchick and Louis Carnesecca, who's still with us here on campus, and get to spend some time with him on occasion. So, you know, New York, a great place to live, a great recruiting base, the tri-state area of Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. And just the challenge to restore St. John's basketball to its rightful place as the crown jewel of college basketball in New York City. It doesn't get much better. And I miss the camaraderie with the kids and the staff. I miss the competition at the highest level, and felt I could bring back an increased basketball acumen or knowledge from my 7 years away studying the game right there courtside at all the top programs, watching the best coaches, plus drawing on my own experience from my first 15 years in the business at Purdue and UCLA. So the door opened. It's been a great marriage, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. It's an arduous task climbing the Big East ladder, but it's a challenge I look forward to.
St. John's with a number next to its name for the first time in 11 years. Steve, nice to have you back. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Jim. Let's do it again down the line.
You got it. Thank you very much. Remember, you can check out Jim Roman's Burning each weekday at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific on ESPN. I will see you then.